everyone. We're back here with our day 3, last day coverage of our time at AWS reInvent. This guy's no stranger to our Techstrong audience. He's always either on a webinar showing you how to use Kubernetes, trying to make Kubernetes easy. Some say that's an impossible dream. Or on Techstrong TV, talking cloud native and Kube with me. He's my friend Andy Suderman of Fairwinds. Andy, it's great to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
You know, for people who haven't caught you before on either Techstrong TV or any of the webinars, give them a little bit of your background.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a longtime infrastructure guy. I've spent my entire career working in infrastructure. I spent the last 9 years working exclusively with Kubernetes. Now I'm the CTO at Fairwinds, and we help people run Kubernetes. We try to make it easy, like you said.
And like I said, in some cases, it can be a bit of an impossible task. But, you know, it's funny, Andy. We're sponsored by you're Suderman. We're sponsored by SUSE here at, it's the last day. I'm getting a little punchy.
It's a long week.
We're sponsored by SUSE here at AWS reInvent. And we've been spending a lot of time talking to the Rancher guys about multi-cluster Kubernetes management. I'm sure that's something that's near and dear to you.
Yeah, I mean, we manage quite a few clusters for all of our customers. We're familiar with Rancher, lots of multi-cluster stuff. I think, you know, the one question we all have to ask is, where's the data live? Right?
Yeah.
Everybody was like, we want to go multi-region, we want to go multi-cluster, and I say, that's great. Where's your data going to live? Because that's the thing that's harder to move between clusters.
I agree with you, and especially in a world of data sovereignty and all of those things that you're dealing with, right?
Absolutely.
But you know what I found, and I might be wrong because I'm not the expert you are, but a lot of time multi-cluster Kubernetes happens quite by accident, right? You're doing a Kubernetes project over here and you spin up a cluster. We're in the same company, we just don't talk.
Yeah.
I spin one up over here, Jill spins one up there, Bob and Harry over there, and before you know it, damn, we got 4 Kubernetes clusters we're managing, but they're all kind of standalone, but okay, now we got to get efficient and we want to bring them together.
Yep.
So I call that like the accidental multiple Kubernetes cluster.
Yeah, we have a name for it. Our sales team knows this term. It's cluster proliferation problem.
CPP.
Yeah. So we run into a lot of folks that have that, mostly large companies, lots of teams, different business units. They end up with a vast number of clusters, the cost gets out of control, and usually when we work with those folks, we work with them to consolidate into a platform. And so their end goal is, let's get down to a manageable number of clusters, managed by us at Fairwinds, hopefully, and build a platform on top of that so that all of these developers aren't managing all of their own clusters. And the goal is, let's make it easy for them while also getting control and governance and policy in place. It's a lofty goal, but it can be very successful for folks.
Absolutely. Wow. You know what? This was a good way, though, of introducing what Fairwinds does. And
you teed me right up.
I did, not even realizing it. But that is the kind of the bread and butter of Fairwinds, right? You've got people who have these proliferating clusters, and you have people who are saying, "Hey, I want to modernize and move over, maybe I'm going from VMware and I'm moving to another virtualized environment, but I want to go cloud native. I want to go to a microservices architecture."
Yeah. Any architecture really, but
yeah.
Microservices is one way. I had something I was going to say and I lost it.
It's okay. We're live, so we just got to keep rolling. So I'm going to come up with something here for you then. I just recorded or played my Shimmy Says that I do every week, a little 10-minute video on LinkedIn and X. But one of the theme of this week was, hey, man, DevOps, cloud native, and platform engineering are alive and well here at AWS reInvent. And my thought was, when I first got out here, I was just like bowled over with all the agentic AI announcements. It seemed like all AI all the time, right?
Yeah.
And but in talking to people and having conversations, I'm hearing Well, one of the agentic AI agents Amazon came out with was the DevOps. They're calling it a DevOps agent. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'd call it a DevOps agent just yet, but they have plans. They have big plans for it.
Yeah.
But hearing a lot about DevOps, a lot about cloud native, right? Cloud native is the choice if you're looking for transformation, modernization. You want to move maybe from on-prem to the cloud, not all the way. You want to do a hybrid. You want to, cloud native has had a strong showing here at the show. And platform engineering is no longer a fad or a niche. I think it's taken its place alongside the other two in, hey, this is how we build software.
Yeah.
How we run software.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think at KubeCon we talked about we've launched a product to help people build those internal platforms, and it's entirely based on cloud-native software because we really believe that is the future of platform and where it's going. And I think we could see it from Amazon as well with the announcement of the Managed Argo CD and Crow ACK or ACK. They're doubling down on cloud-native as well. And so it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay, and it will be, the future of platform and DevOps engineering as we know it.
Thinking back to the Rancher announcement, what you just said, is managed cloud native the future? I mean, you guys manage for your clients, but you could come in, set them up, and parachute back out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I had a similar experience in the cyber, we didn't call it cyber, the InfoSec space when I was there, which was after about 15 years, 10, 12 years, I realized that most organizations just weren't capable of managing their own security. They didn't have the budget, they didn't have the expertise, and quite frankly, they didn't have the stomach for it. Are we at the same place in cloud native?
I think so. With the larger companies, that's absolutely true. A lot of our customers, it's one or two of those three things. It's either they don't have the time or the budget or the people, and that all generally rolls back to budget, or they could do it, but they don't want to because they'd rather focus on business impacting things. And that's what we enable is, let us do the things that you don't have the stomach for, or don't care about, or don't have the time for. And you can focus on your business.
Right.
I've always had that philosophy of, outsource what isn't your core competency.
Yeah, I also learned that the hard way. The .coms, I had helped start a company. We wound up going public. We were what they call an ASP, application service. So there's no cloud. There's no T3 lines of your internet, the cat's meow internet.
I remember that.
And we're offering hosted Lotus Notes, Oracle, PeopleSoft. And the lesson we learned is if it's not core and critical, those are the two things, right?
Yeah.
Something could be core to your DNA, in your case, Kubernetes expertise, cloud native expertise, or critical. Your business can't run without it. You don't give up things that are core and critical.
Right.
If it's core or critical, you might give it up.
Right.
If it's not core or critical, you absolutely should give it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because otherwise you're just wasting money.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of companies, the intricacies of managing a cloud native environment, managing any IT environment, if you're not an IT company, it's hard. But cloud native in particular, because, Kubernetes really never came with a try me, I'm easy kind of button.
No, batteries were never included.
No,
Security
batteries were never included there.
No.
Crazy.
Defaults was never included.
Yep. So what kind of, you guys have a presence on the floor and everything.
Yep.
What are you hearing from people?
One of the biggest surprises to me, this is the first time we've had a booth at reInvent. And in the past, it's always been, I always just kind of assumed that we'd get about 10, 15% of people using Kubernetes. That has changed. At the show, it's 85, 90% of people
you think it's that
I
high?
talk to are using Kubernetes. And maybe that's because they're stopping by a booth that says Kubernetes on it.
Well,
but
go figure.
But I'm talking to so many more people that are using Kubernetes or planning to move to it from some other container orchestration or something like that. So it's a huge number. It's good to see.
That is. So now you got me curious. I'm going to have to ask everyone I talk to. 85 sounds really high.
Yeah.
Right,
like
because
I said, confirmation bias on my part.
Yeah, no, but the big picture number I always am told is that about 15% of payloads on the cloud are cloud native. Now, a lot of that is because it's legacy stuff.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure there's quite a lot still that people aren't talking about, and it's also that I've said this in the past is that they're probably using Kubernetes. The company is. But what percentage of their workloads are running it? That's a smaller number.
And you're right. That's a real distinction.
Yeah.
Because I think what it is greenfield products very well may be 85% Kube.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
Brownfield, again, people may not have the stomach to do that transformation.
Right. Or the need.
Right. Don't break what's not
if it's not
broken.
Don't fix it. Yeah.
Don't fix what's not broken.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So this was I didn't realize this was Fairwind's first time exhibiting here.
Yeah.
Coming back next year?
Probably.
Yeah, worth it. Good conversations, good customers.
Yep. Yeah,
good show for you.
All the right people are here. Yeah.
Really?
Good conversations. And, the parties are fun too.
We did a thing at the Sphere last night with the Wizard of Oz. It was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yep. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about, forget AWS for a second, Fairwinds.
Yeah.
Anything new coming down the pike you want to share?
Nothing that we didn't talk about at KubeCon, but I'd love to share, our new product, IDP Quick Start. So I talked about it a little bit a minute ago, but we are putting together with AWS. They've built an AppMod Blueprints repository that helps you build a platform from open source. They did a couple of sessions on it this week, a couple of workshops.
Yeah.
We're going to be running another one with them next week, I believe. So check that out at Fairwind's website, fairwinds.com, if anybody's looking. And we'll show you the product that we're going to be building, which is get you started with a platform faster than you could probably build it yourself. Because the biggest problem with platforms is that people spend 2-3 years building a platform because it's such a complex task. And so AWS and us together have made that much simpler, kind of prepackaged it up for you. And then we can customize it to your business needs, and then you can build on top of that to serve your developers. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share?
No.
All right.
Come to reInvent. It's a long week. It's fun.
It is a long week, but
it's worth it.
You're heading home today, tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, you know what we didn't mention? Fairwind's website.
Fairwinds.com.
There you go. Andy, it's always good to see you, man. I don't know when I'm not doing, you guys don't do KubeCon in Europe, do you?
Sometimes we'll have a person there, but we won't have a booth. No.
I'm not, Mike Vizard's going to cover KubeCon Europe. First, it's the same week as the RSA conference, so I'm out in San Francisco that week.
Gotcha.
But we'll talk. And you guys are always on with your webinars and everything else around.
Sure, we'll do something.
All right.
Sounds good.
Hey, we're live. We're at AWS reInvent on day 3. We still got some great content coming up for you, great interviews. Stay tuned.
When it comes to our customer success is really, are they getting value? Are they unlocking new business opportunities? Or are they getting more efficient? That's why this partnership between AWS and SUSE is so important.
This relationship is built on authenticity and trust. They're always coming up with something different from a different angle, and it provokes a lot of thought.
I think a lot of it really comes from having the shared DNA around working back from the customers and jointly innovating on behalf of them.
Positioning their solutions with our AWS customers, we know that we're standing behind solid products.
At AWS, we recognize SUSE as a leader in container and cluster management.
Choice and flexibility are the defaults for us. We know our customers operate in a multi-cloud hybrid environment. And with the partnership with AWS that we're creating here, this new SaaS offering expands the choices they have for deploying a SUSE Rancher managed environment.
We have been partnering for over a decade now. When we launched the marketplace in 2012, SUSE was our launch partner along with 4 other partners. Today, we have 3,500 partners in the marketplace. You were with us from the beginning of the journey.
I'm most excited about SUSE's ability to create these open source solutions. A lot of our customers are looking for choice when it comes to software, and understanding how SUSE builds enterprise class solutions, I think, is important.
SUSE has 30 years of history working with that open source community, and that's very critical because AWS is a big promoter and supporter of open source as well.
Open source really isn't just about the software, it's about ideas, it's about the diversity of thought, and that's exactly what this relationship delivers.
I think what's interesting is how much SUSE is actually leaning into software as a service, meeting customers where they're at, making it really easy for them to use their solutions.
And that's ultimately what both organizations are striving for, is how do we make our customers more successful together than they could be otherwise independently.
Our commitment is to come out with a product that is integrated with the technology that's going to provide customer value. We keep iterating and iterating and iterating because when we come to the table together and we look at the next prototype or we look at the next phase of the roadmap, the ideas that are in the room, we just keep flowing.
This partnership between AWS and SUSE is so important. SUSE has a really rich history with enterprise applications. They support enterprise applications as large as SAP. SUSE and AWS have a long history of supporting open source. And that's very critical because we're supporting that builder community. When you bring those two things together, it's a great combination for our joint customers. And that's ultimately what both organizations are striving for, is how do we make our customers more successful together than they could be otherwise independently.
Are you frustrated juggling a bunch of tools just to run your Amazon EKS at scale? Leave your frustration behind you because now you can streamline every Amazon EKS cluster across regions, accounts, and teams with turnkey governance that unifies your EKS footprint. Introducing SUSE Rancher for AWS with an AI SRE. It's the simplest way to orchestrate your entire Amazon EKS environment.
Accelerate daily ops. Remove all Kubernetes skill gaps. AI SRE is powered by Amazon Q and Amazon Bedrock. Unify control and governance. With SUSE Rancher for AWS, administrators can set enterprise-wide guardrails with policy, SSO, and RBAC. This makes it so developers get a clean UI to create and manage clusters within compliance. Reduce consumption and costs. Lower cloud waste by up to 50% by time travel with SUSE Observability or optimizing resources like Spot instances, all within SUSE Rancher for AWS. Streamline Amazon EKS while lowering the skills gap. Unify control and governance. Accelerate daily operations. Optimize costs and right size.
SUSE Rancher for AWS. Try it free for 30 days on the AWS Marketplace.
Hey everyone, welcome back to our Techstrong TV coverage of AWS reInvent 2025, sponsored by our good friends at SUSE. You know, we've been doing a couple of panels. I love doing the panels because we get a lot of points of view and we've got some really, really smart people that I enjoy learning from. Let me introduce you to our smart panel for today. I'm going to start on the far right with Rick, and I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves because I'm not smart enough to remember all their names and titles. But Rick, why don't you go first?
Sure. My name's Rick. I'm the general manager of the Linux team at SUSE.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Manu Prabhakar. I lead all of our business and Linux application partnerships at AWS.
And Margaret Dawson. I also love Linux, but it's not in my job title, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at SUSE.
Excellent. Thank you all. Rick, the other two folks gave their last name. I'm going to call you out.
Sure. My name is Rick Spencer.
That's what we want to hear, Rick, because there's someone at home who says, that's my dad, my husband, my someone.
I think
my kids probably know my name, but if you want to find me online, I'm Rick Spencer 3, all one word on all my social media.
There we go.
Who's Rick Spencer 1 and 2?
My grandfather and my father.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, be that as it may, though, we're here to talk about something really important today. You know, I wanted to start this conversation off with, I've been a user and my name is Alan, I am an AWS user, for a long time. And, you know, it's funny when you first start, I don't know how many of you have been, I assume you have done on your own AWS journey, but you whip out your credit card, you open your first instance. It's easy peasy, right? I'll go with the default Linux. And I click that, I'll click one of these, give me 2 of those. And it's very simple. But these things have a way of like being like rabbits, where they breed, and at each level it becomes more complex and more complex. And then your cohort at work, he's on his own journey and she's on her own journey. And then someone says, how many instances of AWS are we running on this team? Everyone gives the face, I don't know. It becomes a complex kind of thing because maybe you didn't pick the same Linux I'm running. Maybe you didn't pick the same configuration manager program. Mano, I'm sure at AWS, you guys know this journey well, where one day you wake up, you know, and it gave rise to the whole FinOps movement as well.
Right. That's part of it, yeah.
Right? My goodness, what am I managing here? What do we got? How do I know what we have? How do we bring order to this chaos?
Right.
And it's a problem. It's a real problem, right? For most organizations, especially at the enterprise level. Rick, I don't know, do you see this problem on-prem as much at SUSE? Because SUSE has a lot of on-prem enterprises as well. Or is this kind of a cloud specific?
I would say it's not cloud specific. So what we see is that in a typical enterprise, they're absolutely managing a multi-Linux estate, as we put it. And there's different reasons that lead to that, as you mentioned, like the ease on a cloud provider, like, you know, picking a workload, launching it without, you know, giving thought to what you're going to do in 2 days when there's time to apply updates and et cetera. Also, you know, different ways of running workloads. One company might acquire another company, and that company had standardized in a different way. So this is one of the reasons that our multi-Linux manager tool is so popular, because that allows you to manage any Linux anywhere at any scale. That's very useful in AWS environments because, you know, EC2 customers may be managing, you know, workloads with all different OSs, not just SUSE, of course, Amazon Linux, you know, other Linuxes. And so that's a really good option for if you're an EC2 customer, you want to get like a pane of glass, that'll help you make sure things are being up to date. Multi-Linux Manager will help you apply policies. It'll help you mirror repositories so that you can you know, operate with the utmost safety, et cetera.
I think this goes to some things we've talked about a lot this week already, where an AWS and SUSE are very aligned in providing that choice. I mean, people may not realize that when they spin up an instance in AWS, you can choose from a multitude of different Linuxes or Kubernetes. I know we're going to move to that in a minute, but I think the importance is that we're now very, very focused on how do you help people understand those different environments, how do you help people manage those different environments, have more of a, you know, single control plane. I don't actually believe in a single pane of glass. I don't think we can even do that, but like we can help you have better visibility. How do we understand the costs better? How do you integrate FinOps, different things? So that's really where we are today. And then, you know, part of that is then how we integrate AI, because that's helping you automate, helping you do things more easily. So I think the original demand and ease of use that came out of AWS, you know, initially, that allowed developers to spin all that up and have that choice. Now people want a little bit more control, a little bit more management, a little bit more visibility, while still giving developers...
While still having choice.
Correct, while still having choice.
They're not giving choice up.
That's correct. And still, and ease of use. Developers want to build an app, they want to build cool things. So how do we not take away any of the ease of use? We don't want to add friction, but for the ops people, for the management, for all the other people that are leveraging that incredible cloud infrastructure, how do we give them more visibility and more management, more control?
I think a part of coming here at reInvent with all the 60,000 developers and, you know, people who are part of the AWS ecosystem, I think it's also to put a flag, not right now, but like what's going to happen over the next 12 months. And I think a part of this conversation of managing complexity is also, some of the stuff that Matt shared yesterday in the keynote around the work that we're doing with our frontier models.
Yeah.
And I think that the whole idea is that we are trying to abstract the complexity away. So there is a level of abstraction of the complexity that is happening, what Rick mentioned, at the Linux manager level. But as we progress over the next 12 months, I think we need to talk about how we are bringing the MCP servers as part of this conversation. How do we bring the big announcement yesterday was around Quick Suite.
Yes.
So I think the thinking here is that, yes, we are having this SUSE Linux manager that is going to manage a lot of what is your security posture, what's your packages, what is the profile. That stuff is, that's beautiful. Now, from a developer who's just getting started, the people who are doing one servers or two servers, they're not really super sophisticated into the nuts and bolts of the Linux or as well as for the AWS for that matter. I think we're moving to this natural language processing interface like a chatbot. You talk to the machine and it responds back. So I think that's where it is very exciting. Over the next 12 months, I think where we see is integration of the SUSE manager with Quick Suite. So customers can actually just speak or, in natural language, discuss, hey, what is, how is my overall Linux distribution? What is my cost? How do I manage it? What is my security posture? And I think that really makes it much more accessible and democratizes, and then also gives you more control. And with more control, more choice as well.
Right.
Yeah. And it also brings in like the agentic capabilities. And so in some ways I look at the Quick Suite as like sort of almost an agentic orchestrator. And so you need the primitives there, which are those MPC servers, for instance. Right now you can go get Multi-Linux Manager, you can install the MCP server, try it out right now. You can go spin up SLES 16, our latest release we released a few weeks ago, install the MCP server, of course Rancher, install Rancher, get your Kubernetes clusters in control, install your MCP server, which is great, but Quick Suite really can help you take it to the next level by allowing you to run agentic jobs, which maybe, if it detects an issue, the LLM can make some decisions about maybe I need to log a ticket, maybe I need to use, the other services that are available as part of Quick Suite, maybe enhance the information with some other things that Quick Suite would know, who owns that server in your organization? Is it mission critical, or is this something that can go down, and those kinds of things. So I think the combination of the SUSE infrastructure using EC2 and EKS and Quick Suite is it'll just be totally different in 12 months how people are managing their infrastructure at scale, and there'll be more uptime, more efficiency. I'm really excited to see what happens over the next 12 months.
Scale's a funny word, right? Your scale may be different than my scale.
Yes.
Right, and so it's relative. But, they don't call AWS a hyperscaler for nothing, right? Some of the scale of the install base, right, of enterprises on AWS is truly massive scale. And to me, it seems like this is a perfect use case for AI and agentic AI and MPC servers, right? Because how else are we going to get our hands around this? I mean, and when you think about why do we really want to use AI, right? It's to do things that, the mundane things, yes, but it's to do things that we can't not easily get our hands around. And so I think it's important. Now, we spoke in the last panel about the strategic nature of the relationship now between between SUSE and AWS around Linux, around Rancher, and around Kubernetes and all of this. But I don't think you can mention those 3 or 4 things without now mentioning AI as well, because this is an AI-assisted model. We've seen a lot, as you mentioned, Manu. There was a lot of announcements around agentic and agentic AI and AI in general yesterday. Rick, I'm going to throw it to you, and then we bounce it around the panel here. How, because this is a 12-month roadmap, let's say, but who knows? This goes real quick. How quickly do you see SUSE, taking what was announced this week internalizing it, if you will, and reflecting it on what's available in the marketplace?
Well, I would argue it's happening right now, and that SUSE is uniquely positioned for this. Like only SUSE has a multi-Linux management tool, only SUSE has a multi-Kubernetes management tool. Only SUSE also has a Linux distribution that's made to work with that. Now, if I may, I would caution people to think about, like, if you're just grabbing an MCP server, hooking it up to your LLM and letting it like do what it wants to do, that's probably not a good idea, because if you just take the approach of just exposing the API to an LLM, we've all read the tragedies of like LLMs deleting production databases and stuff like that. So the thing I would say is that, if you look at SUSE's history over the last, 25 years, we've been really focused on like security, safety, compliance. So we're very carefully building those agentic capabilities so that they fit into a real world workflow, and I think we're probably the most trustworthy company to actually like bring all of the power of the quick suite and all that agentic orchestration that people are doing like into the operations space.
Yeah. I think I just want to call, thanks Rick, I think I want to call back to your point about scale. Like A company scale is different from B's company. I want to highlight that SUSE and AWS have been partnering for 2 decades now. And so we have thousands of customers that are running mission critical workloads, both on the SUSE Rancher offering as well as REST. And these are, company, workloads like high performance computing, SAP. So customers are really, they love the fact that the two companies have been working together. There's a level of trust, and we are supporting mission critical workloads for a long time. So I think agentic is just the next chapter in this partnership. I think we spoke already about managing the complexity of Linux, which is distributed across AWS and across your multiple multi-cloud environments as well as on-premises. How do we bring this back into a quick suite view, and then we can actually do real-time analytics on that. We spoke about that. I think that then this entire narrative of abstracting complexity then extends to container workloads as well. So with the Rancher Manager, the SaaS application that underneath uses Bedrock. So then again, similar to what we discussed in Linux, in a natural language interface, customers can say, hey, what's the status of my clusters? What is the cost associated with it? As you will discuss, that's a big concern as well. And then how do I manage it? And so I think again, it's all about democratizing, making it easy for our customers. And we have a track record of doing it for 2 decades, and this is the next evolution of.
I think there's one other piece of this strategic relationship is that we're doing this. We talked about choice across very heterogeneous environments in terms of multi-Kubernetes, multi-Linux. Like we're kind of embracing that together. What the AI does is take all of those, very disparate sources almost of data and does such a great job of bringing that together, just like we make it easier to manage all those disparate, flavors of Kubernetes and Linux. So, there's these kind of thematic ideas that both companies are embracing, and it is about lack of complexity, but it's also about ease of use, ease of management. And then I think the other piece that SUSE brings is that open source heritage into AWS that came with the supplemental packages on Amazon Linux. So it comes back to whether you're using SUSE Linux or Amazon Linux, how does SUSE support that and make it even better, bring you the technologies and tools you want as you're using Amazon? How does Amazon allow you to have choice around that? And I think that is a very unique and differentiating partnership, right? Because we're bringing you the stability, the security, the scale. Nobody scales like Amazon, right? Nobody brings open source technologies in a secure, more stable way. And then we're also giving that choice and control of heterogeneous environments. So I think that combination of all those things is really powerful for the customer.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better, Margaret. Let's dive a little, if we could peel the onion back another layer or two here, though. Let's get a little technical. Because Manu and Rick, you both are pretty technical folks, and Margaret and I could fake it. Actually, she's pretty technical, too.
I wouldn't underestimate Margaret on this one.
Never underestimate Margaret. But we spoke MPC service.
Yeah.
everybody has an MPC server today, it seems, right? How many MPC servers
MCP.
MCP, excuse me. I forgot what MPC stands for.
I don't know. We should make something.
Multiplayer gaming.
Yeah, it is. It's a multiplayer console.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's where my head's at. But,
bring out the Xboxes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, the problem, like in my mind, I'd like to see Amazon come out with an open source version of the server that everyone could standardize on. And then, Susa, you could build your special sauce on top of this. In other words, how many different, like right now, how many MCP, right? Yeah. Now you have me questioning myself. How many MCP servers does
So
Amazon?
I think one of the things we discussed. So first of all, I think the standard spec for MCP is open source.
Yes,
it's very
it's
standard.
open.
Similar with A2A in terms of how the agents
Yes,
thing.
they
We
both
have
open source.
more than we launched this MCP server /agentic /AI marketplace back at the New York Summit in July. So we have thousands of ISVs as well as products that are listed. So I think now at this point of time, the customers are really transitioning from piloting over the last year. I think that's our thesis is over 2025, a lot of the piloting, a lot of testing, and 2026 customers are really going into production around that. So I think, so everything that Rick and we discussed, in terms of exposing the capability of, for example, the thing we discussed about either Rancher, manager, or whether it's the SUSE Linux manager, the MCP is just like, it's just an interface into managing that, and how does it talk to an LLM? And then we bring all of that, integrate that into QuickSuite. So that's where the customer is. Customer is actually doing a natural language conversation with QuickSuite. Either it is text or it is voice. And then we abstract the complexity away through the MCP server and the MCP client in the background. All of that insights, whether it is the state of your Linux operating system, whether it is how your Kubernetes cluster is doing, what is the security, what is the posture, the cost, all of that comes and says, hey, can you give me, and for example, a question would be, can you tell me how many Linux distributions that I'm using across my state here? What is the status of my Kubernetes? Just give me an overall view. How is the cost trending over the last 3 months, 6 months, 9 months? Just give me and what can I do to optimize? Those are really powerful things. Right now it would take, days and weeks for somebody to pull that entire view together. I think we're in the next 12 months where we're heading is to consolidate that view into one.
I would like to, well, first of all, if I may, if there's any viewers who are like, what is exactly MCP and how it's working. So think of it as basically like a shim between like any tool and an LLM. And there's two main parts to think about. And the first part is like context, right? The MCP server tells the LLM how to ask for context, right? So how do you query for logs and that kind of thing. And then the other part is tools or tasks that the that the LLM can actually take, right? You tell the LLM, you can actually go do these things through the MCP server. And so it's actually relatively trivial to stand up an MCP server in the same way it's trivial to stand up a website, right? However, designing one that is usable in production in the way that we're talking about is non-trivial. And so that's why we're like really excited to be working with Amazon to expose like our very careful, painstaking work to like, bring those natural language queries and those automated actions like into the operations and administration space. And then exposing that back up to the QuickSuite where it can bring in other contexts that, are not being provided by our tools and other actions that, are exposed to other tools. Like think of something as simple as like logging a ticket in your Atlassian or whatever, your GitHub or et cetera, right? So it can like ask our tools for, is everything looking okay? And it might say, it's looking okay, but a little shaky. Let me log a ticket so that when your admin wakes up in the morning, or it's looking really bad, let me use your PagerDuty and wake somebody up. These are the kinds of like very trivial examples of the kind of workflows that people are going to be able to build in their, using the QuickSuite along with our MCP servers for our management tools.
I want to return to money. So it's always on top of everyone's mind. Ronnie, you mentioned a little bit. We can actually, through QuickSuite, ask the AI, what can we do to optimize, you want to call it FinOps or whatever you want to call it, but optimize spend, cost. It's one thing to ask and get some suggestions. It's another thing to say, okay, you got to close this, move that, do this, do that. How close are we to automating that? So for instance, when I write something with AI, right, it says, would you like me to do this? Yes. Mm-hmm. And it does it, right? That's, to me, that's the money shot, right? Can we do that now with Linux, with this relationship and with what we have there?
Sure.
Do you want to, though?
So the way that we actually have implemented, our logic is you wouldn't let an LLM do something that you wouldn't let a team member do. No sane SRE team lets somebody just log in and make a massive change without a code review.
Right.
So if you look at some of our demos and come to our booth, we can show you it can write the recipes and scripts, check it in for you, start the code review process. Which is what you would expect a human to do. The only thing is it can be done a lot faster with a lot more context. The LLM handles complexity in a different way than a human does. But that's, to go back to what I was saying before, that's really why I think you want to partner with a company like SUSE, because we take that very, very seriously, making sure that your infrastructure is protected and compliant and following all your compliance guidelines, while also giving you all the efficiency gains that admin teams are so hungry.
I think absolutely. I think in the enterprise setting, this is still it's still a problem that everybody's working on. Mm-hmm. I think if you saw again Matt's keynote yesterday, he talked about everything that we're doing around guardrails and policies. Mm-hmm. So I think there is a lot of active work that we're doing both at the LLM level as well as through QuickSuite in terms of how do we manage and police the actions that the LLM's taking on behalf of the customer. I think are we there fully? I think to Rick's point, we can create guardrails, we can train data. There is already LLM looking at the LLM to make sure that we are in the straight and narrow here. And I think that's where we discussed 2025 was a lot about experimenting. If we have to get to the scale in 2026, get into production, this is probably the most critical thing that we have to cross the chasm, as they say, to get to make enterprises comfortable with taking that leap.
Yeah. And I think the question is, when do you want the LLM to take that action versus you still want a human in the loop, right? Yes. And I don't think we're done with that conversation, right? There's still going to be times where you want a human to push the button, so to speak. You're not going to give the LLM access to your source code necessarily, right? Even if you want it to help you develop in your way. So I think there's still some ongoing discussion of where the human in the loop is, even with all the guardrails and all the governance that happens. But I think the more you can automate all of those things and bring us intelligence faster, better, cheaper, right, then we can make better decisions.
Yeah, we all agree, though, there's a massive push to get into that direction. I think the value and the opportunity is tremendous. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's why everybody's just kind of running full speed.
So you ask yourself, why? Why must there be a human in the loop? Well, there's two reasons. Number one, is the underlying technology good enough where I could because it comes down to a matter of trust, right? Mm-hmm. Can I trust it by itself? I was driving my car on the highway a couple weeks ago going to the airport, and it said, hey, why not try it's a BMW assisted driving. I said, let me try it. I'm by myself. No one will yell at me. I hit the button, and it started driving. It take your hands off the wheel, take your feet off the pedal, just sit back and watch. And I found myself like this, right? Sitting, ready to pounce on that wheel. And you know what? I never had to. It took the turns. If I put on my signal to switch, if there's a car there, it tells me no. If there's no car, it speeds up and switches. It's a very similar experience to trusting the LLM, the AI, to do these things. It's going to take time until you take your hands away from the steering wheel and put them on your lap. But we'll get there one day, I think. I don't know if I'll be here, but we'll get there. And it's coming for sure. Like, there's no doubt in my mind this is the way of where we're headed.
I mean, I think it depends on how you look at it, right? Because if you think of like the driving analogy being that the LLM is changing your infrastructure like directly, like that makes sense. But if you think about the way people actually manage their infrastructure through like Ansible and Salt and other tools, like we're there right now. Like there's absolutely can generate like perfectly serviceable Ansible scripts that can go into your whole GitOps workflow, and people can your other GitOps team members can look it over. Other LLMs can look it over and make sure, like, does this meet our security compliance, and et cetera. So I
think the technology is there. As they once said on a TV show, we have the technology.
Yeah.
But do we have
I think
trust?
To Rick's point, a lot of that is deterministic. In the sense we know there's like A to B to C, everything is fully tracked. I think the LLMs is non-deterministic, some part of it. So I think like once the technology is there is already a pattern here that the customers trust, and yes, they're already deploying mission critical workloads through Salt scripts and such. I think the LLM in itself has to evolve to get there. Right, and I think right to Margaret's point, we are still. I think for 2026, we still foresee the human in the loop is going to play a very critical thing.
Yeah,
critical role. Yeah,
agree.
Yeah. I mean, there are patterns in for instance, Kubernetes. You can set it to like auto scale and different things.
Yes.
So, like, I think a lot of it is like what RBAC. What role-based access controls do you give the LLM? And this is already a very common pattern, right? Like a lot of platform teams will say like, hey, our ops team is allowed to scale out, but they can't scale down, or similar things like that. And so I think we'll see over the course of just literally the next 12 months, like patterns like that being brought into, like, this is a tool that we can give the LLM to just go ahead and do it because they can't do much damage. Like they could create a new table, but they can't delete a table.
I think the question is like, does the LLM put out patches to all the unpatched systems? And you're saying, like, do you trust it enough to do that or not? Do you let it roll back a feature update or not? Right. So I think there's like a level of specificity.
Or certain kinds of patches,
right,
maybe
exactly.
let it do,
yeah, exactly.
or not.
Right.
Yeah, so.
And I think just one last point in the race to get to that the best state here where we can start trusting the LLM. A lot of it is actually training and what data that we are training the LLM on. And I fact, just SUSE has decades of data in terms of how customers are using both their Linux and the Kubernetes distributions. For AWS, what Matt discussed yesterday are the frontier models around developing code, on deploying code and running security. So we are running, as I said, hyperscale. Right. So we have like tons of, supporting millions of customers over a couple of decades now. So that data, and then what is the learning that we have done as a function of that informing some of the new AI or the new LLMs we are developing specifically for that specific workload. I think that is probably the path to getting our customers more comfortable into deploying it on production use cases. I think that seems like the road to get there.
Mm-hmm. So there's been a great discussion, but you know what I'm worried about? People looking at home. If they're watching this, they're probably not here. How can we get them started? These are all great things that we spoke about, right? Really kind of job changing if you're a Linux administrator or an AWS administrator. Rick, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Where do people go? How did they get started? Where's the on-ramp here?
Sure. So I would say for a call to action, if you want to get involved, go to the marketplace. You can get Multi-Linux Manager there. You can get SLES 16 there. Go ahead and install the tech previews for the MCP servers. Start giving us feedback. What's working for you, what's not working for you. That's exactly why we put it out in as a tech preview so that we can iterate quickly with the user base. Mm-hmm. And same is true for Rancher.
And my call to action is do everything what Rick is.
That's an easy one.
Yeah. Plus, try out the new Kiro software developer platform that is becoming now generally available. Also go look at some of the new stuff that we are doing here with the frontier models, both on the DevOps side as well as security side. I think that is really going to start pulling the story together in terms of what Rick is talking, and then
And no coincidence, those are the three agents that were announced yesterday, right? Yes. The Kiro agent, and security agent,
and the DevOps agent.
And the DevOps agent. Yeah. So you can get all of those. Margaret, I wanted to give you the last word.
Wow. I don't see this. Now you've got me speechless. No, I think I'm just
not
really
often.
no.
Mark that down.
I was just going to say that the last 2 days, which feels a lot longer than 2 days, but there is just so much energy in this show. There's so much energy around Amazon, around AI, around just how to collaborate. And again, I'm going to go back to, I know this is becoming a repetitive theme, but continuing to look at the ecosystem around AWS. And I would say it's our ecosystem and AWS's ecosystem, and the power of how all these companies and all these technologies are coming together to help people build applications that are better, faster, smarter, more secure, and deploy them what works best for them. So it's just exciting. Like, there's just a lot of enthusiasm and great tech.
At great scale, too.
At great scale and great technology.
Rick, Manu, Margaret, thank you so much for joining us on our Techstrong TV coverage. We're going to take a break here on Techstrong TV. We've got lots more coming at you today and tomorrow, so stay tuned, but we'll be right back.
What I love most about my team is the fact that there are different cultures, different backgrounds.
Across Europe and also Australia, US, India. It is a very international team.
We all bring different perspectives and we have a lot of things in common, but at the same time we have a lot of unique characteristics, and individual differences is what makes us really strong.
Everything we do together. And if someone needs support, we're there for each other. And whether that's a simple ask or whether a much bigger project, regardless of time zones, we're there for each other.
The biggest thing that makes me feel like I belong at SUSE is that open source is core to the culture.
Embrace the open source mindset within the company. Expect people to share opinions and for them to want to hear your opinion.
SUSE people come to us because we're open source, they care about open source, and then they stay because they love the place.
The leadership here at SUSE are all approachable, and that makes a huge difference.
They are very approachable and they walk the talk.
You're really encouraged to speak up and to share your expertise and to make a contribution.
The level of transparency and openness that we've seen has been inspiring.
The growth that I've had since I've been here, the trajectory's been amazing. You own your own career here at SUSE.
When you work for a great company is when you can't resist making friends.
I've made a few friends throughout the process, I would say. The work-life balance at SUSE is really healthy. It's also very encouraged to take time off, which I'm not used to.
That is something that really drew me to SUSE, the approach to people, and that's a good reason to join.
It's fun. First of all, it's fun. People really like what they are doing. They are very clever. Sometimes we have a hard time just talking.
Coming to work every day makes me feel belong to the company. So SUSE allowed me to turn my hobby into a job.
The meritocracy, best idea wins. Hierarchy matters less. Every voice is heard and I think is considered. I think that's what makes SUSE special.
Everybody, no matter what you do, no matter who you are, if you have a great idea, you have a platform where people listen to your idea and where your idea can actually become reality.
Business is very open, very honest, very trustworthy, very collaborative, and the team of people at SUSE just make it a really fun place to work.
I just want to innovate, SUSE won't tie me down. They make choice happen for me, baby. Make choice happen for me, baby.
We're SUSE, baby. We'll turn you into a hero, baby. Since 92, enterprise and open, baby. Powered by communities, branch, baby. And the thing about a customers is
I just want to innovate, SUSE won't tie me down. They make choice happen for me, baby. Make choice happen for me, baby.
we're SUSE, baby. We'll turn you into a hero, baby. Since 92, enterprise and open, baby. Powered by communities, Linux, baby. And the thing about the customers is
I just want to innovate, SUSE won't tie me down. They make choice happen for me, baby. Make choice happen for me, baby.
My name is Ryan Anderson. I work for NMDP, which is a nonprofit Miro registry. My title is a senior DevOps engineer. When I started, it was the default way to deploy applications on Docker. So because we had embraced Docker so well, we had hundreds and hundreds of VMs on premise. We had many different Docker deployments in AWS. And it was deployed in several different ways, and it kind of depended on maybe what consultant did it and which team did it. And the end result was in 2020, we said we're going to do Kubernetes now, and we wrote out our requirements. We said we wanted to have an AWS, we wanted to have it on-prem and support both. We wanted to have Active Directory authentication so that we can have role-based access for teams. We put Rancher against two other solutions, and Rancher really came out on top. It had functionality that we didn't even have in our requirements. Like, we had started going from CloudFormation to Terraform with our AWS infrastructure, and Rancher had a Terraform provider. That was kind of like a really nice to have, and after testing, I was like, wow, how come no one else has this? We chose Rancher, and we embraced it, and we've really found quite a lot of value in it. It supports all of our requirements and then some. It's updated regularly. It's added some new functionality. Our developers are using industry standard tools on Kubernetes. We've moved traditional apps that were on traditional Linux servers. We brought them into Kubernetes. By going to EKS, Amazon's Kubernetes service managed by Rancher, we did save over 50% on their AWS costs because of that implementation change. So for us, that was really nice to have. We're a Kubernetes first organization. It's done so well for us. We have one way of doing things. It's really increased our productivity and brought in value to our organization, and to ultimately so we can free ourselves up to save lives.
Sustainability is all about the choices we make to preserve the planet and create equitable opportunities while our business continues to grow and thrive.
There are so many reasons why sustainability is important to SUSE. Firstly, it's because it's important to our customers.
We can always be more efficient in how we develop and create products. In an open source way, we reuse what we can reuse. And that is really, really great for sustainability. The things we're doing with observability allow us to even become better at helping customers find ways to optimize their power usage. We in SUSE feel very strong that the open source business model contributes dramatically to a sustainable world.
When you come to the SUSE office here in Nuremberg, you can see where the SUSE honey is created.
I was always interested in bees and wanted to take care of them. If you had a meeting and you need a few minutes to relax, you can come to the bees, look at them, this calms you down.
You can take a glass either to consume it yourself or to gift it to somebody. It just builds a different community. I think it's quite unique.
It's about collaboration, being one community.
It brought me definitely closer to my co-workers, and it's a really fun project.
What I love most about my team is the fact that there are different cultures, different backgrounds.
Across Europe and also Australia,
US, India. It is a very international team. We all bring different perspectives and we have a lot of things in common, but at the same time we have a lot of unique characteristics, and individual differences is what makes us really strong.
Everything we do together. And if someone needs support, we're there for each other. And whether that's a simple ask or whether a much bigger project, regardless of time zones, we're there for each other.
The biggest thing that makes me feel like I belong at SUSE is that open source is core to the culture.
Embrace the open source mindset within the company. Expect people to share opinions and for them to want to hear your opinion.
SUSE people come to us because we're open source, they care about open source, and then they stay because they love the place.
The leadership here at SUSE are all approachable, and that makes a huge difference.
They are very approachable and they walk the talk.
You're really encouraged to speak up and to share your expertise and to make a contribution.
The level of transparency and openness that we've seen has been inspiring.
The growth that I've had since I've been here, the trajectory's been amazing. You own your own career here at SUSE.
when you work for a great company is when you can't resist making friends.
I've made a few friends throughout the process, I would say. The work-life balance at SUSE is really healthy. It's also very encouraged to take time off, which I'm not used to.
That is something that really drew me to SUSE, the approach to people, and that's a good reason to join.
It's fun. First of all, it's fun. People really like what they are doing. They are very clever. Sometimes we have a hard time to stop.
Coming to work every day makes me feel belong to the company. So SUSE allowed me to turn my hobby into a job.
The meritocracy, best idea wins. Hierarchy matters less. Every voice is heard and I think is considered. I think that's what makes SUSE special.
Everybody, no matter what you do, no matter who you are, if you have a great idea, you have a platform where people listen to your idea and where your idea can actually become reality.
Business is very open, very honest, very trustworthy, very collaborative, and the team of people at SUSE just make it a really fun place to work.
Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel, and we're back here live with our AWS reInvent coverage. I hope you've enjoyed what we've been putting up so far. We've got our first non-Techstrong live guest here today with us. Let me introduce you to Gautam Rao. Before we get in, and actually it's a great segue to talk, well, what exactly is
Newbird?
Newbird AI.
We build an agentic SRE. What that is a site reliability engineer. So basically, IT operations for enterprises have been a difficult, challenging, part of their operations for a very long time. And the modern compute stack and infrastructure stack has gotten way complex. I mean, anybody here at reInvent, which is where we are right now, can attest to that. So we live in an age of AI. What Newbird AI does is we build, using AI, we solve the problem of complex IT operations.
What a great use case. I'm going to come back to that in a second, but before we do, I always like to give our audience a sense of who they're listening to, who they're watching. We didn't even talk about what your role at Newbird is, how you got here. Let's hear the Gautam story.
How far back do you want to go?
Well, you mentioned you're from Brooklyn,
I am,
that's points in my book, right?
Great,
I'm from Brooklyn too, but we could probably skip ahead till after college.
Sure, yeah, let's do that. No, so I did grow up in Brooklyn. My dad bought me my first computer when I was barely a teenager, so I got into computers early on. Short of the long story is I'm an engineer. I am the CEO of Newbird AI, but I'm an engineer. I write code. I'm passionate about AI. I'm passionate about data science, and really the integration of those two things is what Newbird AI does. About me, I did my master's at the University of Pennsylvania. I grew up, I grew up in Brooklyn, grew up in India for a little bit, moved to Philadelphia for my graduate school. After that, moved out to California. This is now my fourth startup. I've been in enterprise software for most of my career. What else can I tell you?
You know what? If you stopped right there, I think everyone would be out there saying, I wish my kid would grow up to be like that, right?
I think you want that.
So, well, it's good and bad with everything. But you know what was interesting? You were almost apologetic about being a CEO. Hey, I'm not just a CEO, I'm an engineer. I could code, God darn it.
Yeah.
But, there's something, so I've done 4 or 5 startups myself, venture-backed startups, and I think there's something about being a founder, co-founder of startups that transcends whether you're an engineer or a sales guy or a business person or what have you. It's passion. You got to have passion for what it is you're doing. You don't just start a company to start a company. You start a company because I see a problem. I see something that the market hasn't addressed adequately yet. And I think we could build a better mousetrap. I think we could do something that's going to make someone's life somewhere easier. And that passion, I think, is what separates the engineer from the founder, from the CEO.
I think so. I think, look, it took me a couple of times to figure this out. And First of all, you have to do what you're passionate about. And look, what we're doing here at Newbird AI, and you know, I'm here to talk about anything you want to talk about, but specifically in this company, it's something that I could use. Like I've, you know, for your audience out there, what is an SRE, or why are IT operations hard? Well, what the truth behind the matter is that you know, you guys use, you know, Twitter or Instagram, and the complexity of the software and the hardware and the infrastructure that goes behind all of this, not just delivering the content to you, but the AI behind it. These are very complex systems. And when things break, engineers have to be up, and you're looking at what's called telemetry, logs, metrics, traces, and you're trying to figure out a solution to a very complex problem. The short of the long story is I've done that. I've been up at 2 a.m, beating my head against the computer and trying to figure out how to fix these things. So I'm passionate about what we're building because it solves that problem. It solves a problem for me. That's the most important thing. Like if I can build something where I'm happy with it and I'm like, whoa, this is awesome, then, you know, I hope that there are other people that will benefit from whatever it is that we're building. So yeah, it's fun building this. You're right that I am passionate, that I'm an engineer, because you know, I'm having fun building what we're doing, and it's like when you're tinkering with something and your hands are dirty and you're figuring out what it looks like, and every day it changes. It's a fun journey.
Absolutely. You know, that's not an uncommon fact pattern, right? And I call it, I can't be the only one. I can't be the only one with this problem. Right. If I could solve this problem for myself, I could solve this problem for everyone who has this problem. And there's got to be a business wrapped around that then.
That's right. You know, you solve a problem, and if there are enough people that align with the problem you're solving, then there's definitely a business around it. And
yep.
And you know, the look in what we're, and AI is so prevalent right now with, and so many startups here, at least at reInvent, that are focusing on taking Gen AI and applying it to a very specific domain. Now, once you start solving the problem, you start realizing that there are other people also solving the same problem. Okay, so there's competition out there, and then how do you differentiate yourself from the competition? Well, not two people aren't going to solve the problem the same way. The solution is going to look different, and it will align with people that are that nuanced in how they want the differentiation to look like. And so then that drives your passion. Like, am I subscribing to a very specific set of customers that want the solution delivered in this kind of way? And you engineer toward that. And hopefully you acquire customers that are aligned with your mentality and how you want to solve the problem, so you're still having fun doing it. It's been a wild ride for the past 2 years. And, you know, just like looking at, talking to all the customers at reInvent just makes you that much more energized.
I love it. I love it. Let's talk a little, you know, we were up here talking about it from a business point of view, but let's dive into agentic AI for SREs.
Sure.
Right? We cover SREs a lot, whether it's here on like for DevOps.com or Cloud Native now, you know, PlatformEngineering.com, another one of our sites. SREs have become key members in these communities, right? The role of the SRE, I think, is more clearly defined now than it's ever been, right? People don't question, is it real? Is it, you know, what exactly is it? My question to you, though, is, are we ready for an agent? Is it to replace the SRE, to supplement the SRE?
Augment. You're not going to replace humans. And people ask this all the time, right. Like, is AI here to... When the Industrial Revolution happened, right? And I'm sure I wasn't alive back then, but, you know, I'm sure people were worried about what will happen to our jobs. And look, we just learned to live with technology, and this is no different. I mean, it's faster. It's the change of innovation. The curve is probably a lot more steeper, but ultimately, it's something that we will live with. It's something that we augment ourselves with. So actually, before I answer that question, let's talk about what an agent itself is, right?
Good.
Gen AI, past couple of years, everybody, ChatGPT came around and people were wowed by it. And how did Gen AI make its way into the enterprise? And by the way, let's also acknowledge that AI ops itself has been around for a long time. That there's nothing new with AI ops. So why is this wave different? You asked the question about agentic systems, or you made a point about agentic systems. So let's talk about what an agentic system is first. The difference between traditional AI and Gen AI is that traditional AI based on machine learning is engineered for more probabilistic outcomes or known outcomes. So for an example, when you're going to design a system for credit card fraud detection, right? You have well-known patterns, and you'll engineer for those well-known patterns. Gen AI, the number of variables or the space, the complexity, the number of parameters is so large that there's a little bit of uncertainty in what its outcome will be. Keeping that in mind, what an agentic system is the following. So we know we have these very large language models, which is the whole core behind Gen AI. How do you use that in enterprise systems? Well, Gen AI on its own is generic, has been trained on so much web data out there, not necessarily applicable to enterprise information. So the way it made its way into enterprises is people started with this thing called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. Sure. So I'm going to provide my enterprise content, and let's see what the AI can determine out of this, summarize it, create marketing documents. That's not an agentic system.
That's RAG.
That's RAG. So now, and this has really taken off over the past 12 months, maybe 18 months, what an agentic system is understanding that these models have a lot of knowledge in them. You can't just take content and throw it at it for a certain class of problems. An example, we're talking about SREs, right? Site reliability engineering relies on complex telemetry. Enterprise application data consists of a lot of logs, a lot of metrics. These are time series data, traces, which are very complex graphs. Short of this long story is there's just too much information to apply RAG. You can't take this information, throw it at the LLM and say, help me. Mm-hmm. So what is an agentic system? And I'll get to how this helps SREs, not replace.
It's okay, I'm letting you run with it.
An agentic system allows the LLMs to figure out what information they need to access. It's the converse. Instead of you throwing data at the LLM and saying, help me, you're asking the LLM, you tell me what information you need. I have this ailment, my website is crashing, or this feature is not working. LLM, apparently you have been trained on so many different IT scenarios, you tell me what to go access. And that's called context engineering. Okay. And that's where companies like Newbird AI, and there are other people solving this problem, come in. The point here is that we now believe that these LLMs are so smart, have so much information in them, that now the problem that needs to be solved is not making them smarter, but it's about context engineering. Garbage in, garbage out. If you can ask an LLM any question and it'll always come up with an answer, and that's the problem. You can't do that with IT systems. You have to be surgically accurate, 100%. Identifying the problem relies on the right context. So how does this complement SREs? SREs are sitting there under the gun. They have a problem to solve. If they have a good context engineering solution, they can ask the LLM, I have this problem, and here's my context engineering platform. It will help you find the needle in the haystack, and then you help me solve the problem. This will help make the SREs and the engineers' life a lot easier. They can solve more problems in shorter amount of time, and more importantly, they can focus on not firefighting, but innovating and building better product and solutions, which is the bottom line for an enterprise.
Love it. You gave us a whole bunch of stuff here. You guys need to go back and re-listen to this after this. You watch this. It'll be up in a couple of days because there's so much. I don't want to use the word bedrock because that's a big word over here. Yeah. But there's so much foundational information here between what is an agent, agentic AI, what is RAG, what are all these things. Let me pivot a little bit because we're running on time. AWS announced a whole bunch of agents, or they're they announced 3 real key agents.
Yeah.
One of them, though, is they're calling it a DevOps agent. In my mind, I don't know if it's really a DevOps agent, but it seems to do some of the SRE kind of stuff.
Yep.
Can be competitive. Generally, the AWS products, are the 80-20 rule, right? They're 80% of the functionality, 75% of the functionality. How do you view it? Is it, hey, use the AWS tool, and then when you find out what's missing in your life, come to us?
No. Look, I tell my customers the following story too. We were talking about agentic systems. I probably rambled on about what it takes to build an agent and context engineering and this and that. A follow-up to that story is dealing with an agentic system is different from purchasing software. Where in software, you kind of have an expectation of what it does, and it's either or. You're either using software from vendor A or vendor B to solve a problem. But in dealing with agentic systems, you should approach it differently. It's how you hire people. It is part of your workforce. It is rooted from a deep, machine learning, but a deep understanding of a variety of different problems that humans have solved. So what do I mean by this? When you are hiring an employee, do you hire the same type of person again and again? Or do you hire a different kind of people? It's about diversity. Because you hope that when you hire different kind of people, they come with different ideas, different backgrounds, different ways of solving a problem. And so overall, your enterprise is richer. Why am I saying this? I believe the same thing will happen with agentic systems. You're not going to settle on just one agent. There will be agent diversity. Agents will work with each other. There are already projects around A2A, agent-to-agent protocols, and how agents can access external systems through things like MCP. So it's great that everybody has their own agent, and these will solve very nuanced problems. And there will be a framework that unifies all of these things, and we don't know what that will look like. And I think as the industry matures, we're going to figure this out. That's my way of answering your question, which is AWS will have an agent. Microsoft announced its agent about, 8-9 months ago at their conference call, the Azure SRE agent.
Yes.
Datadog, which is a huge partner of ours, has their own agent, and that's great. And these agents should work with each other. We already have customers that deploy multiple agents. We did at Microsoft Ignite a couple of weeks ago, we demonstrated how our agent, which is known as Hawkeye, that's our agentic SRE solution, can cooperate with the GitHub Copilot agent and the SRE agent. And all these 3 things together close the loop. What loop is that? Developers push in code. Invariably, things can break. Our agent can pick it up at the operations end and saying, I'm seeing this problem. Submit a request to the GitHub Copilot agent to go in and write some code to fix it. Goes all the way back to the developer to say, this looks good, and I'll accept a fix. And that loop shortens how long it would have taken to fix that problem end to end. So having an enterprise purchasing multiple agents or working with multiple agents and tying these things together will be the future.
Excellent. You know what? We didn't mention the URL, how people can contact.
Yeah. Neubird.ai, neubird.ai. And our agent is known as Hawkeye. We GA'd actually last year at reInvent. We have a lot of customers that have been using our systems now. We have results on our website that you could go look at in terms of how we have reduced what's called the mean time to incident resolution. In some cases, 90% time savings.
Wow.
And what does that mean? Well, it's bandwidth and time that the enterprise can get back to work on what they actually want to do, right? Building their core products and services as opposed to firefighting.
I love it. Gotham, we're out of time, man, but
thank you so much.
You know what? Thank you. Again, I'm going to tell you guys something. If you want, when this is up on Techstrong.tv or the YouTube channel or the OTT channel, go back and listen to what he said again. It's a great primer for some, basic concepts that we all bandy about these words and you may not truly understand what they are. So go check that out. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
We're live here at reInvent. We'll be back in a little bit with our next guest. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, it's Alan Schemmel, and we're back here live with our AWS reInvent coverage. I hope you've enjoyed what we've been putting up so far. We've got
For some time, as a company, we've been looking at who are strategic partners that our customers want us to work with. And one of the key things we've heard from our customers is, cloud providers such as AWS.
SUSE has 30 years of history working with that open source community, and that's very critical because AWS is a big promoter and supporter of open source as well.
We've always collaborated with SUSE in the past, positioning their solutions with our AWS customers. We know that, we're standing behind solid products.
We have been partnering for over a decade now. When we launched the marketplace in 2012, SUSE was a launch partner along with 4 other partners. Today, we have 3,500 partners in the marketplace. You were with us from the beginning of the journey.
Choice and flexibility are the defaults for us. We know our customers operate in a multi-cloud hybrid environment. And with the partnership with AWS that we're creating here, this new SaaS offering expands the choices they have for deploying a SUSE Rancher managed environment.
We're a 30-year-old company, we're very good at what we're doing. But in terms of modernization, right, there's lots of tricks to be learned. And so AWS is a great partner to help us think through new motions, product-led growth, SaaS models.
I think what's interesting is how much SUSE is actually leaning into software as a service, meeting customers where they're at, making it really easy for them to use their solutions.
This relationship is built on authenticity and trust. They're always coming up with something different from a different angle, and it provokes a lot of thought.
I'm most excited about SUSE's ability to create these open source solutions. A lot of our customers are looking for choice when it comes to software, and understanding how SUSE builds enterprise class solutions, I think, is important.
More and more customers digitize their workloads, their business processes, and they do this on a cloud-native platform. So this is a good stepping stone to support them from the infancy of such a modernization project all the way to maturation.
Applying technology in an easy way, there's no better place than open source to do that. And AI is no different. The number of frameworks that have emerged in the last 3 years in open source for that is just off the charts.
We keep iterating and iterating and iterating because when we come to the table together and we look at the next prototype or we look at the next phase of the roadmap, the ideas that are in the room, we just keep flowing. Open source really isn't just about the software, it's about ideas, it's about the diversity of thought, and that's exactly what this relationship delivers.
Your company is a tech company. No matter what you do, where you operate, or what industry you're in, technology is critical to your success. AI, hybrid cloud, edge computing, Kubernetes and containers. Technology never stops evolving, and IT teams are constantly asked to modernize infrastructure, cut costs, protect critical systems, and adapt to emerging tech, all while moving faster than ever. That's where SUSE comes in. With SUSE, your IT foundation is open, efficient, and secure. Open means you benefit from the collective power of open source without vendor lock-in. Efficient means you choose the right technology for every job and everything still runs smoothly. Secure means your systems stay under your control, protected and compliant from core to cloud to edge. Technology should empower your future, not get in the way. With SUSE, you're ready for whatever comes next. Unlock your IT potential with SUSE.
Right now, organizations all around the world are building their future with AI.
It's an entire new way of thinking about your business. AI efficiency is no longer about doing more with less. but rather doing better with less.
And that's where SUSE comes in.
SUSE AI, super exciting space for us right now. There is so much opportunity. What's fascinating is the rate of change, and that's really where SUSE's vision and values comes into play.
So one of the great things about SUSE AI as a platform is that it's completely flexible, whether it be retail, manufacturing, healthcare, all of those solutions that our partners work in, they bring that value to the customers through the platform.
SUSE AI is your platform to deploy and run your AI applications in a safe, secure, and compliant manner.
SUSE AI is targeted at secure, private AI workloads. So customers that are in regulated industries or privacy-sensitive industries prefer SUSE AI because of its capabilities.
Organizations that have deep values about their environmental, social, and governance impact, those ethics didn't go out the window because technology got better. SUSE helps facilitate organizations to remain responsible actors as they innovate.
We want to be an AI solution that is flexible, modular, open, innovative, and can be trusted. Those are values of SUSE itself that we want to bring into the AI space through the SUSE AI platform.
We are fully committed to provide our customers a stable, reliable, and secure platform, which is going to be the foundation of all their future GenAI deployments.
What really makes me excited is to see all the new things coming out, how they're going to help us in our life, and how they can run on SUSE.
We're only just scratching the surface. The potential for us as an organization, as a company, to deliver value, to innovate with our customers is super exciting for me. I just can't wait to see what the future is going to hold for us.
So we're living in this world of exponential innovation driven by open source, and that creates infinite potential.
We are taking open source innovation and we are turning that into enterprise-grade solutions for our customers, and most importantly, we're offering them choice.
SUSE's portfolio is a value-led portfolio. It's all about being able to reinvest your savings in your strategic priorities.
So our portfolio, with its complete infrastructure play, is a really, really good solution for customers. We have the tools to manage it all in one single pane of glass.
We have 4 domains of focus at SUSE: Linux, Cloud Native, Edge, and AI. SUSE has one of the most certified operating systems in the world.
We see that customers more and more look into mixing their stacks, exchanging specific building blocks of their stacks, and that gives customers freedom.
Multi-Linux Manager comes to address and deliver the ability to manage at scale while giving the choice and flexibility.
It's not as choosing for you. You choose where you run, you choose how you run, and then we'll support you.
The cloud and container native world has a very fast pace of development.
SUSE's Cloud Native portfolio is an industry-leading approach to cloud native management of IT.
Long gone the days where cloud was new. Cloud is everywhere. But also we're looking at deploying infrastructure out at the edge in the most constrained of environments.
What's happening on the edge? Retail, very small devices, things that operate on the ocean or in the sky, they all need to run well and they need to run stable. And they need to be able to withstand the speed of innovation and security and all the things that are really important these days.
SUSE AI is a platform to deploy and run AI workloads. It's probably one of the fastest growing workloads in the world right now.
We want to provide customers with the tools that they need, with the tools that they want to be able to innovate.
Customers are extremely concerned about security. SUSE AI as an offering is truly making that solution absolutely secure for customers.
Customers, they want the openness. They want to be able to have a choice. This is one of the reasons why they pick SUSE. There are very few vendors in the marketplace that do that today.
Hey everyone, welcome back to our live coverage, day one of Amazon or AWS, Amazon Web Services reInvent. I am really happy to be joined by this guy here. You may not recognize him. He looks 10 years younger, sans the goatee. He's lost weight. He's in fighting shape, my friends. You know, the Steelers could use some players. Maybe you can help us out here.
Watch that.
They were pitiful.
I was proud of Aaron to come up and basically say, no, just say,
afterwards,
we need to do better, and I'm part of the problem. You know, like that's
there's a leadership message there, right? I mean, I give him credit. It doesn't make it hurt any less.
I think there's a lot of parallels to AWS. They're doing that right now. They know that they sort of missed the first wave of this AI pivot, and I think they're being very different from the historic AWS that owned the cloud era 1.0, and they're recognizing the things they need to do, and I think they're making those pivots this week.
They made a really big pivot. I thought you were going to tell me Matt had a bloody nose too, but no.
That was good though, right?
That was. I love the way you brought that back in.
It's like I've been here before.
Absolutely. So if you don't know this gentleman, Daniel Newman, CEO, Futurum Group, it's my friend. I love working with him, and he always has great insights, like this little tidbit you just brought us back to AWS. So I was talking with Mike Vizard this morning. Certainly, this is all AI all the time this year at reInvent. What's your take? I mean, obviously they're making a pivot. They're going hard at AI.
Well, I think they recognize, so we are in the era of AI cloud. And, Futurum, we do our signal evaluation. AWS did not score in top 2. It has fallen behind both Google and Microsoft in this era. Now, AWS has this massive advantage called a humongous customer base. They have a huge customer base from the first cloud era. And by the way, anyone that's worked with CIOs as long as you have, I mean, maybe as long as I have, knows that in the enterprise, it's not the same as the consumer. Right. And it's not the same type of pace of sentiment. There isn't a new thing that comes out and everybody just ditches Google for ChatGPT. When it comes to cloud, these companies are deeply integrated in AWS. And so while this AI pivot maybe has forced some companies to do more multi-cloud and have seen some workloads go to Google, the opportunity is still really in place for AWS. So they had a couple of big things they needed to prove this week. The first thing they needed to prove is that they really are the place for the enterprise to commit building AI, generative AI applications, open up to more developers, something that obviously the DevOps.com community knows really well. That they have infrastructure, that they have an approach, both their partnership with NVIDIA and making sure the market understood that they have the NVIDIA they needed. That was something that early on, they maybe rotated a little quick to their homegrown Trainium chips before it was the right answer for a lot of their customers. And then, of course, they needed to show that they could really open their aperture to the developers of the AI era. And I kind of glossed on that, but they focused on that with their announcements with Kira, what they're announcing there, Agent Core with the ability to build agents. They need to be the place where people are building the applications that run their business. So they had that mission this week. I think Matt Garman in his keynote, he always gives a good keynote. He's a real product guy. He's a real product guy.
He really is.
You could see
it. It was a very product kind of.
That's the AWS way. Yeah. That is the AWS way. And of course, I think the one thing that they, in the last 10 minutes, they did like a speed round of every other announcement that they had, Kubernetes and all their regular instances and CPU instances and storage buckets and everything else they're doing. But you could tell this was all about being a prove it moment that we are a cloud that's ready for the AI era. And I think they did a good job.
Absolutely. Couple of, plays off of what you said. Number one, you're right. This almost wasn't about cloud. We didn't hear as much about S3 and Lambda and serverless and all these cool things that AWS pioneered. We did hear a lot of agentic AI. You mentioned DevOps. Actually, one of the 3 main agents that they announced, they call the DevOps agent, which, I thought, tip of the hat to them for that. Another thing they announced, though, and I don't know, maybe it didn't register on your radar screen, is what's it called? The Forge?
Nova Forge.
Nova Forge. So I look at that and say, wow, that gets me excited. And then I think, well, how many organizations do really want to build their own foundation model?
Well, and that's a great point. And that was something I probably should have had on my third thing in the first list. But First of all, Amazon is part of their Prove It. So I mentioned, the Trainium and the vertical stack of infrastructure. They talked a lot about that. But the other part of the Prove It is I talked to investment bankers. I talked to other analysts. I talked to media and press regularly. I talked to enterprise customers. A lot of them didn't even know Amazon built models.
Right.
So, they had Titan originally. They did Titan, and then they really went in with Nova. But really opening the market to understanding that they are in that business, because that really is the complete. We have all the compute and all the infrastructure. We have all the developer tools and frameworks, and then we have the models. Right. And being able to say and then of course Bedrock, where you can basically bring all these models, you plug it in, and you deploy the applications. That is the full stack story. And you saw last week when people started to get the idea that Google and TPU could be a competitive offering to the sort of open GPU era, specifically NVIDIA, but it could be AMD, it could be anything. And despite the fact that I would argue that most of what was presented is not quite factual about that, the thing that's made Google so attractive, the reason it's risen to all-time highs, its market cap.
So you're saying what was offered by Google, not what was offered by AWS or both?
No, what I'm saying, well, first of all, I'm eventually going to get to my parallel. It just takes me a while. But that what Google's doing in the full stack has given the market a lot of appreciation for Google.
Yes.
Now, Google is unique.
And they were rewarded.
Its corpus of data is unique. It's a little different, but Amazon has quite a bit too, from its ads, from its commerce business, a lot of very unique data, and of course has a lot of enterprise data, which is where the majority of data still actually sits. But Google's finally getting credit for being full stack. They're getting credit for saying, hey, you built TPU, you've built the networking, you've built compute chips, you've built...
They have the vertical stack.
You've built the agent and applications and Vertex and builders, and of course then the models, Gemini's proving to be very good. Amazon wants to follow suit. They want to say, hey, we got Trainium. Hey, we've got Nova. Hey, we've got Agent Core. Hey, we've got Kira. Hey, we've got all the things that are required for basically an enterprise to say we can run all our AI in one cloud potentially, makes it more valuable. Amazon hasn't gotten a lot of credit for that. And so this was an important inflection. Now we got to see how much the market digests that.
Yeah, and how much they believe it. Let me ask you a question, though, at the Trainium chips and the Google TPUs, too. Is this really a competitor to Jensen and the NVIDIA people, or is Broadcom?
Well, Broadcom makes the chips for Google. So Broadcom is the full end-to-end design. They do it all.
But not for the Amazon Trainium.
No, Trainium's different. Trainium is Marvell. It's all chip. It's actually sourced through a number of different suppliers, but largely Marvell. I think the right question here is, are custom AI chips competitive to merchant silicon and specifically the NVIDIA ecosystem? And like I said, to a lesser extent, you could argue the AMD ecosystem.
Sure. Well, they're the up-and-comer.
Yeah, but I think the answer is, and I think we've talked about this, we've market modeled it. We do believe the custom chips will actually grow faster towards the end of the decade. And here's the reason why. There are a small subset of companies that are the largest buyers of infrastructure, compute. So there's a benefit, and the reason Google really invested in, and now remember, there's 7 generations in. It wasn't like they came out with a new chip and everyone's like, oh, it's going to replace NVIDIA. 7 generations in. I think in their 6th generation, they were able to train a first kind of high-performing large language model, Gemini Advanced, that was on their own infrastructure, which was a big breakthrough. Because obviously before, the idea was everything has to be trained on NVIDIA. So that was a pretty big inflection. But Google, you think about what Google does. It does AI all day. It's doing massive volumes of inference all day long on its own infrastructure. It needs to think about its margins. So a company like Google that's doing that much scale, of course, might look at, hey, here's 3 or 4 specific workloads. Let's build a custom chip that really works for everything we do, for search, for recommendation engine. We'll build it at scale. We'll invest big up front, but our COGS will get a lot better than when we don't have to pay that 75% margin to NVIDIA. Having said that, though, they're always, at least as far as we see it, going to be probably 1, if not 2 generations behind in terms of the most advanced NVIDIA chips. So token economics, inference efficiency, performance, memory throughput, all those things that are really critical to training, pre-training, to doing large models, but also just to scaling tokens in agentic eras, may or may not be as efficient on those on the custom chips when you need the flexibility. And so what I think ends up happening is it's really our vision of the AI market is it's all hands on deck. You'll see me say this anytime you see me talk about the bubble and social, is right now, every single wafer that TSMC can produce a chip on is being sold. So NVIDIA has a certain amount of capacity. Broadcom has a certain amount of capacity. Broadcom can make a certain amount of units, and every one of them is being built. These companies, so you got to expect, by the way, not just Broadcom, it's others, but Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Oracle, OpenAI, they're all Meta. They use so much AI that they're going to use some of their own chips. And by the way, this isn't new. They've been doing this for a while. We've seen the ARM movement with CPUs that moved certain workloads off Intel and off AMD.
Right.
This is a business decision, but it's not necessarily because they believe it's the most performant or the best technology. They're trying to fill a gap, hit margin levels, understanding that not every workload needs to be on the most advanced chip. And of course, in the end, they're looking at delivering EPS value. And
absolutely,
if they're Meta and they're doing ads, can we build a lesser priced, high performance chip that just focuses on serving AI slop to us all day long as we run around our Meta applications?
There's a world for AI slop, but but this is not a new strategy,
no,
right? It was always. It reminds me of when I first got into security 25, 30 years ago. ASIC-based security appliances. Yeah. This is before we had SaaS or any of that stuff.
Just ASICs too.
Right, and that's what, and back basically it's the same stuff over. History repeats itself. That's what we're dealing with, and you know what? For certain security functions, custom-made ASICs still penny for penny, dollar for dollar, gave you the best bang for the buck.
As long as it was for the right use case and app.
It's that narrow use case,
yeah.
But it's the same thing here. Meta serving ads is a particular one. I'd still look, if I was a betting person, I like NVIDIA's, seat maybe better than some of the other players.
Yeah.
But if they could maintain just 1 or 2 generations behind, Daniel, that's a
lot of value.
Freaking market.
They can get a lot of value. There's a lot of need. There's a lot of, sort of deprecated workloads, just like on compute. Like people didn't just throw their last generation data center server CPUs away. They use them for less important workloads, and they would prioritize new workloads, and they would upgrade, and they would replace, and they would add. Right now, most of what's going out is new.
Right.
And interestingly enough, NVIDIA, I say it's 3 to 5 years minimum before the custom chips could eat meaningful market share, if ever. And I still think it's more of an and than an or. And I think there's a lot of kind of the biggest risk to NVIDIA over time is as these big buyers, the ones that are buying so much of their technology, are able to do more and more on their own chip and with their own margin structure, is will that create any margin pressure
on NVIDIA?
So it's not so much volume. I think if anything, the risk is more sits in the margin. But then there's other things too, like that NVIDIA does. It's just so unique, like their entire backbone being optical,
yeah.
And NVLink and Spectrum X, but the transport between the GPUs is so efficient and so fast that the latency issue is really, when you talk about clusters of this size, it's really meaningful. Until we get co-packaged optics on all the back ends of all these spines and everything.
Look, in my day, it was the buses,
yeah.
Right on the motherboards and so forth. Well, it's still my day. I've had a long day.
So hard on yourself.
It's been a long day. But it was the buses and that, that latency in there. But what I think the other thing is, necessity is the mother of invention. It keeps NVIDIA on its toes to be constantly innovating, to be constantly staying that 1 or 2 generations.
And they've been great at that. Talking about, Blackwell 300s are now ramping shipping in volume. We already know Rubin's coming. We know Feynman's going to come after that. They're coming out 2 generations a year. By the way, that's very hard to do with custom. It's very hard to do. Like I said, there's a few companies in the world that can do it. And then the thing is it's all run in their cloud. I've heard Foxconn's ramping up building servers with the Google TPU chip that could be sold outside. But I think there's, NVIDIA is a merchant silicon company, meaning that enterprises can buy it, neoclouds can buy it. Is Amazon going to really buy a volume of Google chips ever? Of course not. They're probably going to build their own. I mean, Meta's unique. Meta's not competing with the hyperscalers though. Meta's slightly different.
Well, they have they're not the 3 hyperscalers.
They're not the selling cloud
in terms of a cloud, but they're a hyperscaler in and of
But
themselves.
the net of it is I just think it's all hands on deck. I think that, we're hearing, by the way, it was $1 trillion of expected AI infrastructure by 2029, 2030. You got a fantasy game going?
We're getting
what do you got?
a thing going on live here. I don't know. It's ESPN though.
now that number's been risen possibly 2 to 3 trillion. So what I'm saying is like, look, we do market sizing. We look at the market and it's kind of simple. There's market size and overall TAM, and then of course there's margin in the TAM risk. And so on the market size, it's like the market just keeps getting bigger. We're building out 65 gigawatts right now of capacity, up to 80 here in the US. And I mean, you look at the numbers are anywhere from 20 to $50 billion of spend per gigawatt on infrastructure. It's massive. And so like, they can't build enough TPUs. They can't ramp the supply chain fast enough. And that's another thing is like, we know Intel's on the way up and Intel's going to win more and more foundry deals.
Percentage of
it has
work.
to. No, it literally has to because
there's no other way to go.
Can't build enough fabs fast enough. So, but what I mean is every wafer is going to be sold. And so right now, the point is like every wafer and every chip that NVIDIA can build is going to be sold. Their backlog where they have $500 billion for next year, $500 billion order visibility to next year, not including their OpenAI deals. Not including their OpenAI deals. So a lot of people are like, well, it's OpenAI risk. Well, this isn't. It's $500 billion of potential sales between now and 13 months from now. It's incredible.
Not every vendor has that cushion, though.
No, not everyone does. But my point is like, if really realistically a TPU or a Trainium was a risk to NVIDIA, you would start to see it show up. They would have deals.
I don't think NVIDIA truly has a real risk on the horizon.
No, but they're fighting that battle in the market every day. The market is trying to create the FUD that they do. And what I'm saying is they don't, but again, it's not zero sum. There's so much zero sum thinking. It's not at the cost.
Crazy.
All right, SEC. Let's clean that up. At the cost of NVIDIA. And that's my big problem is like, look, maybe over 3 or 4 or 5 years, you'll see some. Maybe NVIDIA will shed a couple points of market share. Maybe the TPUs and the XPUs will gain a few points. Maybe AMD will get a few points of market share. I expect all these things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that Intel and Qualcomm and others that are playing. But the market's huge.
There's enough, right? There's enough to lose a few
points. You know, if you're modeling, and what my models are all saying is that NVIDIA is going to be bigger than we thought it was a year ago. It's going to be bigger than we thought it was 6 months ago. And even while all this other stuff is starting to take some market share, they're still growing TAM. It's a problem that, we wish we had in the research business, that there was that much demand. But like,
God's ears.
The bottom line is that I just don't worry about it.
The bottom line is NVIDIA, the $10 trillion company?
Could be. There's no reason. I think it'll be 6 next year, though.
All right. You heard it here. Daniel, I want to pivot and switch gears a little bit. I want to talk Futurum Signal.
Okay.
We've been talking about it here on Techstrong TV and in our Techstrong stuff. And, look, you and I both know, right? A good percentage of our market is all about up and to the right. It's just, the way we were brainwashed, I guess, coming through. Talk Signal to our audience a little bit. What makes it so unique and so special, and why they... And guys, you don't have to buy a subscription for it today. It's available to you right now. You don't need all of the other stuff, but talk.
Yeah, I mean, we believe there was a fundamental problem with the way technology is evaluated. You see models being introduced weekly, monthly, with meaningful improvements, scaling laws mostly still intact, but like the improvements you're seeing between GPT-3 and 4 and 5, or Gemini 1 and 2 and 3, or even just we just talked about NVIDIA a whole bunch, like twice a year, they're able to roll out a major upgrade cycle or release of their stuff. But yet right now, if you want to evaluate those technologies, you work with an analyst firm, you do a year of interviews and meetings and you fill out forms, and then you get a report that comes out and it's 6 months outdated, maybe a year by the time it gets published, and largely by people who can't touch the stuff regularly. So you've got all kinds of just mismatching now in terms of technology and enterprise decision-making with technology. So the simple question is, do we eat our own dog food? Do we drink our own champagne? Are we in the business? So we thought we could solve the problem differently. And so the reality is, can you build a pervasive, autonomous evaluation platform that really offers true market intelligence, competitive intelligence, that can look at an important, say, agentic platforms, say neoclouds, say CRM platforms. It can look at it up to the minute, can actually really distinguish. It can look at the voice of the customer. It can look at the market models and growth data. It can look at CIO decision data and IT buyer decision data. It can look at the analyst perspective, and it can really create this thing on the fly to completely revolutionize how buyers are able to be matched with the right vendors and have the right supporting evidence to make a buying decision. And so we built it. And we built it in a way where, look, this thing is completely real time. This thing has the ability to take every piece of information, hence signal that comes. It could be a S1 filing from an acquisition or from any sort of market filing that the company makes, a report that they put out. It could be earnings. It could be voice of customer data. We did an exclusive partnership with G2. So they have millions and millions of reviews. It could be all the analysts, the
Futurum.
Yeah, the briefings, everyone at Futurum. It could be conversations had with Techstrong. It could be tech field days where we bring experts in and advisors in to talk about different products. It could be the briefings that we take. It could be events and press releases that come out of these. Why can't we use all this signal in real time to help evaluate the technology? And by the way, I got feedback today. It was great from an enterprise buyer, and they basically said they looked at our agentic report. They said it was the best report they'd ever seen in terms of truly comparing all the agentic offerings. And then they asked me, they go, how much of that was written by people and how much of it was AI? And I said it was 100% AI. 100% AI. Big prompt, all AI.
Prompt. There's a human in the loop.
There's a ton of work that went into this, but the actual content was written by AI, but using all those inputs, that massive corpus of data. And by the way, this is just for this kind of evaluation, but the beauty of this is this can be for everything we do. It could be for economic validations, total cost of ownership reports. It could be for insights and reports and research. And the model is slow, it's broken, it's not immediate. We have to be as fast as the news cycle. Every week, 2 weeks ago, the TPU wasn't a thing. This week, it was a thing. The analyst has to be able to look at what does all this noise mean? And if you're a buyer, what should you be considering? Right now, the current way this is done, you won't have anything meaningful from the market for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months.
12 months.
3 months to get a paper.
Yeah.
12 months to get an evaluation out. And so we're with Signal, what we're really doing is we're saying, hey, how do we do this faster? How do we make it more accessible? And what we're doing, by the way, is you've only seen the beginning. I mean, you've heard my story in the background, but I truly believe that this is all we're doing right now is the Netflix version of shipping DVDs. Right. We've shown the market that we can do this much faster. It can be high quality, and it can be a better experience than going into the store and renting a video. But realistically, this can be streamed. This can be real time. This can be interactive.
It's continuous.
This can be comparative. This can be so many more things. And why in the world would we want to just continue to settle? And why would we want to allow this industry to continue to evolve at such a slow pace when the stuff that we're evaluating is evolving at such a fast pace?
Is lightning speed. One last subject, then I'm going to let you go.
Please.
If you like what Daniel knows a thing or two about the market, about the CPU market and the tech markets in general. You recently launched Futurum Equities.
Yeah.
I guess it's been 6 months already, hasn't it?
Yeah.
For people and there are a lot of you out there who follow the markets, who are investing, what's the best way to follow you on Futurum Equities?
Yeah, look, real quickly, the stocks of the tech companies and the technology itself are inextricably linked. There's this belief that industry versus equities is two different things. It's not. The data that feeds decision makers at hedge funds or investment banks to buy stocks is the same data that CIOs are using to decide whether or not to use technology. I mean, they absorb it differently, they read it differently. Maybe the modeling is a little bit more spreadsheet versus a little bit more practitioner. But we basically realized that we have so much insight, so much knowledge, so much signal that we built Futurum Equities to basically do the same thing we do for industry, but just put a little bit of a different lens on it. So we built a great team. We've expanded the corpus of data. We've taken a lot of the market sizing and modeling that we're doing now to help us sort of assess which companies are good investments. Now, again, we're not advisors. We're not making recommendations. We're providing signal or alpha, like they like to call it, to investors. And, we're using that platform and some, platforms like Substack and Reddit and X, where investors sit really heavily. And we're kind of taking all the great work we're doing in Signal and in our lab, across our analysis. And we're creating content that's really designed for that audience. And within the next few months, we'll actually be launching true sell-side research that'll help, audiences make, we'll have some our opinions, not advice, opinions on whether things are a good buy, what things should be based on models, what the price is. And by the way, we're doing this with just like Signal. We're building it completely autonomously. We can create these reports based on all the insights and data, everything we have that's publicly available, very clearly. Firewall, put them in different S3 buckets, by the way. Okay. Totally making sure that we're
That's our AWS reInvent kind of hook in there.
There you go. And Basically, we believe that the markets, the media, and the enterprises all are symbiotic, and we're going to address all of them.
I love it. Daniel, I know you were busy, and we pulled you up here.
Nothing to do.
I appreciate you always, man.
Always.
Thank you.
Good to be with you.
Futurum Equities, Futurum Signal. We're going to be, I think this is going to wrap up our day one reInvent coverage. We've got a full day tomorrow, a lot of good stuff. Our friends at SUSE will be back on with us tomorrow, too. We've got a lot to cover with them as well as AWS themselves. But for today, hey, man, this is Alan Schimmel for Techstrong TV. We're out. Have a great day.
When it comes to our customer success is really, are they getting value? Are they unlocking new business opportunities? Or are they getting more efficient? That's why this partnership between AWS and SUSE is so important.
This relationship is built on authenticity and trust. They're always coming up with something different from a different angle, and it provokes a lot of thought.
I think a lot of it really comes from having the shared DNA around working back from the customers and jointly innovating on behalf of them.
Positioning their solutions with our AWS customers, we know that we're standing behind solid products.
At AWS, we recognize SUSE as a leader in container and cluster management.
Choice and flexibility are the defaults for us. We know our customers operate in a multi-cloud hybrid environment. And with the partnership with AWS that we're creating here, this new SaaS offering expands the choices they have for deploying a SUSE Rancher managed environment.
We have been partnering for over a decade now. When we launched the marketplace in 2012, SUSE was our launch partner along with 4 other partners. Today, we have 3,500 partners in the marketplace. You were with us from the beginning of the journey.
I'm most excited about SUSE's ability to create these open source solutions. A lot of our customers are looking for choice when it comes to software, and understanding how SUSE builds enterprise class solutions, I think, is important.
SUSE has 30 years of history working with that open source community, and that's very critical because AWS is a big promoter and supporter of open source as well.
Open source really isn't just about the software, it's about ideas, it's about the diversity of thought, and that's exactly what this relationship delivers.
I think what's interesting is how much SUSE is actually leaning into software as a service, meeting customers where they're at, making it really easy for them to use their solutions.
And that's ultimately what both organizations are striving for, is how do we make our customers more successful together than they could be otherwise independently.
Our commitment is to come out with a product that is integrated with the technology that's going to provide customer value. We keep iterating and iterating and iterating because when we come to the table together and we look at the next prototype or we look at the next phase of the roadmap, the ideas that are in the room, we just keep flowing.